what's the ballpark of the current Vans revenue?
We're a $3 to $4 billion company. 500 retail stores in the US, 60 in Canada, 600 in China, 250 over in Europe.
Where did the Vans story begin?
So my dad worked for a shoe company for 20 years. My dad had a disagreement with the owner who he was best friends with, and my dad quit. And that's where the Vans story starts. His dream was to make his own shoes, put them in his own stores, and sell them himself.
The company had been around almost 20 years,
Yes.
doing millions in revenue.
The problem was we got out of our niche. It was costing a fortune. And unfortunately, the bank came in and said, hey, you have $11 million, we want our money.
But you guys sort of pioneered the hybrid of the lifestyle brand with the shoes.
Vans Warped Tour was something that was our best marketing thing we ever did. That was the way Vans got known with music. Mid-70s, skaters started to wear our shoes. So it was Tony Alva and Jay Adams and all of the Dogtown skaters and stuff. Then all of a sudden these skaters and the BMXers and surfers were wearing our shoes. They gave us purpose.
Where did the Vans name come from, and where did the off the wall slogan come from? Hey guys, welcome to this episode on the Passionate Few podcast today. It's your host Omar, and today you guys are in for an epic interview as we sit down with none other than Steve Van Doren of the epic Vans Footwear Company. Steve, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Be here today.
Absolutely.
I feel welcome with skateboards and shoes around here. My gosh, this is awesome.
Yes, sir. We had to keep it off the wall in true Vans fashion.
I like that. I like that.
Yes, sir. And I know we've been trying to do this for a while, so thank you again for your time.
Thanks for being patient.
Absolutely. You got it, my man. So let's talk about it. A lot of people see the Vans company. Everyone has had, a pair, if not multiple, dozens of pairs of these over the course of their lifetime, youth, childhood, even as they grow up. But take us back. Where did the Vans story begin? Because I know you and your father very, very early on started this company, the Vans Rubber Company, and that would later evolve. But take us way back to day one. Where did the Vans story begin?
So that's an easy one. So it's Van Doren Rubber Company was the name, because there was only 3 companies since 1900 go into making vulcanized footwear. So we're from Boston. My dad worked for a shoe company for 20 years called Randy's. He made shoes for Bob Cousy back in the day with the Boston Celtics and stuff. And my dad was asked to move to California in 1964 for a company. They had bought a factory in Garden Grove, and it was losing $1 million every other month.
Wow.
So my dad came out here for 6 months. We didn't see our dad with 5 other people from Boston, and they straightened that factory out, making a profit, doing better than the East Coast factory that he had worked for 20 years. And then one day, my dad had a disagreement with the owner who he was best friends with, and my dad quit. And my dad went to the 9th grade, has 5 kids, a new house in Costa Mesa, and I was 8 years old, and he lined us, the 5 of us up, and he says, okay, there's no canais. And canais, yeah, can I have this, can I have that? So there was no canais, that's all Dad asked for. And so we, at that time, didn't really know much different. And my dad had a friend that he had worked with from Japan that made the uppers, the tops of the shoes for that company. And Serge called the next day and said, is Paul there? And they said, no, he doesn't work anymore. So Serge called my dad up, and my dad said, I have an idea. So Serge sent him a plane ticket to go to Kobe, Japan. He flew over there. And my dad told him the story about what he wanted to make his own shoes and not sell them to everybody else. He wanted to put them in his own stores. And that's where the Vans story starts. In 1965, Jimmy, my dad's brother, Gordon Lee, my dad, and Serge was a silent partner, and they built their own factory. It took them a year. So the very first paint in the stores, I'm now 9 years old, going on 10 years old in 1966. Me and my brother, my sisters were younger, my oldest sister was a little older, and we painted the whole inside of the factory, maybe in a week and a half. And then my dad found out about a spray gun. So in one day, the outside of the factory at 704 East Broadway, he got the, again, Navajo white, and the trim was in brown. It was, you spray painted the entire building in one day.
Wow.
And so it started off there, where it took him a year to build the factory, because we had to get all this machinery, all the laths, all the dies, all the cutting tools. I had to create a box that was going to be Vans and stuff. The first box said House of Vans. That's what on the building said, House of Vans. Eventually became Van Doren.
Yeah.
And then we put in one store. My dad thought his shoes were going to be so good he'd only need one store.
Yeah.
So from there, they were out, I remember, on the swap meets every weekend selling shoes, because they're trying to sell some shoes, get people introduced. What is Vans? They don't know what it is. And I would pass out flyers. So now I'm 10 years old, and I'd pass out flyers. We put our first store down in Costa Mesa. So I'd go pass out flyers around the Costa Mesa area, and then people could come in. The first prices of our authentic shoe was $449. Women's was $229.
No way.
So you can go back to thinking about that. If somebody asked my mother one time, she was the first store manager. You know, my mother says, "Hey, my goal was to sell $100 a day," and everybody's laughing. Wait a minute. When shoes are $229 or $4, it's a lot of shoes.
Yeah, it's a lot of units.
You know, so, but it started off that way. Then my dad put in 10 stores, and then his accountant says, "Paul, you got to close store 3, store 7, store 9. They're not making any money." No, I need more stores. So he put in 10 more stores.
Wow.
And at store 18, he started to break even.
And the vision was originally for him to start this little shoe company, or was the vision always, because I know today you guys do hundreds of millions in revenue annually. You know, this is, you know, billions of dollars, if not tens of billions of, you know, after all this time in revenue. But starting back, this was like a simple shoe design that you guys wanted to get out locally. But do you remember your dad's vision at that time, what it originally was compared to what it ended up evolving into?
Yeah, no, exactly. So he had, you know, 3 different things. He wanted to make the best quality shoe. So when they made the Vans waffle sole, it was thicker than the competition of those days. And he wanted to use the best material, number 10 duck. So it's a real quality duck back to 220 drill. And he wanted to have superior customer service. So his dream was to make his own shoes, put them in his own stores, and sell them himself, and bring the money back.
That way there's no middleman.
Yes, that was the idea.
Yeah.
Today, you know, 57 years later, 52% of our business around the world is still in a Vans store.
Wow.
So his dream, 57 years later, is still alive. And, you know, that's the real satisfying thing, that, you know, my dad's dream is still alive. And every day that I walk somewhere in the world, I'm looking at feet and just saying, you know, my dad, Gordy, Jimmy, and Serge, that was their idea. But he wanted to not have to, I'll tell you a story a little later on about my dad's, the movie that Vans did.
Yes.
It's called Never Catch Pigeons. And he didn't want to have his life decided on somebody else. So by selling his shoes through his own stores, he can control his inventory and everything else and stuff. So that was the early days, and how the factory, again, everything was made by hand. And
It's amazing. And going back to the first store, I know there's a famous story of the fact that you know, the first 12 customers that brought shoes or something, you guys didn't have enough change.
Yep.
Can you tell that story? Customers would go back home and they could come back the next day to bring the exact amount or something like that.
So
take us back to opening
day was March 16th, 1966. And so I always use 16, but my dad's book is 22 customers came in the first day. So 22 customers came in. My dad had racks with the shoes on them. Blue striped boxes were men's. Green striped boxes were women's. Orange striped boxes were boys. And red striped boxes were kids. My dad was a very systematic person. So if you want to look for a men's shoe, come over the blue stripe area. So the boxes were on there, but there were hardly any shoes in it, because he'd been trying to get the manufacturing, and it took a little bit longer. It was back in the days, if you remember, Maxwell Smart, Get Smart. So my dad had opening up January 1966. Well, that didn't happen, so he put, would you believe, February. And eventually they opened up, you know, in March. And the first day when the customers came in, my dad, you know, got the shoe. If he had to go make it, they would make it there and stuff. And when they came to pay for it, my dad had a register, a counter. He didn't have any money in there. And so he told all 22 people, come back and pay me another day. And all 22 people, the last person came 2 weeks later, because she only came to Anaheim from her, she lived in Lakewood, because her daughter lived there, and she paid the money. So one of the things my dad learned early was trust in people.
Yeah, trust the customers. And so he'd let them take the pairs, and then they could come back.
And they took the pairs, and they came and paid later.
Wow, that's amazing. And did you guys, was he bootstrapping it early on, or did he have a little bit of capital from his endeavors prior to start this? Or where was he at in terms of being in a pinch starting it? Or
it was a pinch always at the starting. Serge, you know, got the money involved so that they could buy the machinery and buy the raw materials. And that year that they built the factory, Jimmy Gordy, Serge, Jimmy Gordy, my father, didn't take any pay at all. So, and when they got started, it was tight. Some ladies would come in. We almost been doing custom made since day one. Lady came in, she says, oh, I like this blue, but I'd really like to get a pink, but I need a deeper pink. And then her friend says, well, I like that yellow, but I want a brighter yellow. Ladies, I can only carry so many materials. Go down to the fabric store, get any fabric you want, bring me a third of a yard, I'll make you a shoe. And they said, how much is that? He says, 50 cents. So instead of $2.49, it was $2.99. But that's how we started to do. Nobody knew us. We had to do anything we could.
Yeah.
We made wides, we made narrows. If you wore an 8 on one foot and a 7 on the other, we sold you an 8 and a 7. Took the other ones, made the other feet back up again.
Yeah.
We split sizes. We did anything we could to try to get your business. It was not for skateboarding in the early days or anything. It was just shoes that wore a long time that moms found out that their kids, you know, she liked it because she didn't have to come in 5 times a year
Yeah.
to get shoes. She could come in 2 times because they wore longer.
That's incredible. And I know also too, like early on when you guys were, you know, doing all this together, it wasn't like now where there's so many people who are in the entrepreneurial space and it's common. So for you as a young kid, was it kind of weird for Dad to be starting a shoe company randomly, or were you so young that you just kind of went with it and helped out?
I just went with it, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but we realized later years and stuff, wow, that was a big deal for him to not have a job and go and build this whole factory. So me and my brother was 2 years older, Paul, and he was a mechanic. So he worked with my Uncle Jim on helping with machinery, could cut wood. You know, they kept me away from any kind of machinery and stuff, but
Yeah.
I was the talker, and I would go, and you know, my dad on the, I think, 5th or 6th store, he didn't have a manager, you know, on the weekend when he opened the store up. So he'd put me in while he went and looked for a, you know, so I'm 11 years old and I'm in the store selling shoes, you know.
Managing the
You know,
bands,
you know, exactly. So a lady called up and said that, you know, she was upset when she saw that this young boy was in there, you know, in family business and stuff.
You can barely reach over the
But,
counter,
you know,
yeah.
family business, but after she got done, you know, I did a good job and stuff. And I have a daughter today. My daughter Christy's like 46 years old. She's been with me working since she was this big.
Yeah.
And the same thing, you know, is today, I just think, you know, kids need to get a chance to go out and do a little work and stuff. The parents spoil them a little bit too much. We were the opposite, you know. We were family business, you know, from painting the very first walls to going in the factories in the summertime. Again, they kept me away from the machinery. I rolled all the shoes. It's a roller, and you roll the bumper to the foxing, to the friction, to the outsole, to the heel label and stuff.
That's wild.
But
And do you remember early on, a ballpark of how much capital the Vans company was started with, give or take?
I never heard the total amount. I know that the first $65,000 was to buy the equipment. And there's a story again in the book and stuff that my dad flew back to Rhode Island to a guy that had machinery. Because again, there wasn't hundreds, there was 3 companies, and Vans was one of them. And my dad saw all the machinery he had. He had laths, he had dies, everything else, everything he needed. And my dad says, I have $65,000. And the guy goes, oh. It was his son, the gentleman that had his son. He says, oh, I've been offered, you know, $250,000 or $280,000 down in South America. And my dad at that point was like, oh. And he wasn't a big religious person and stuff. We grew up Catholic and stuff. And I have my St. Jude Christopher because my birthday's on St. Jude. And my dad just sat there, and all of a sudden the guy's, okay, I'll sell it to you.
Wow.
And those are things that happened never.
Serendipitously,
But it's just like, if it didn't get that, we wouldn't have the company today.
Yeah.
But the guy sold him the stuff that he said he could get $250,000 for $65,000. That made it possible for them to get the machinery and then build it in the factory so we can make vulcanized footwear.
That's amazing. And then, so your dad's taking just massive imperfect action and zero experience in shoes prior to this, correct?
No, he had worked for a company for 20 years making shoes.
Ah,
he was
so
an
at
expert.
the rubber company. Got
Yes.
it. So
He
then that's when he had the
He
idea.
left high school in 9th grade, went to work at the factory. And the story is that the very first day my dad went to work there, my grandmother got him a job. And she says, you know, go to the factory. Well, he thought a friend of his needed the job more, so he had that friend go to the job. So my
Yeah.
grandmother, being full-blooded Italian, she knocked him over the head with a broom. And the next time she got a job, he went. So the first day at work, my dad goes to work, and he's supposed to be, the factory where they worked at first just made the tops of the shoes. They made, it's called the upper, the canvas part. And they were making them for kids, but it was called Randolph Rubber Company. So they're making canvas tops, and so it's all sewing. And so my dad goes in there, and the guy that's supposed to be the person that services all the ladies is out today, so they asked my dad to do that job. So he's going over here, and the lady says, oh, bring these over to the lady in pink. And the lady in pink says, then take this over to the lady in green. And so all during the day, my dad's just adapting to whatever he wanted. So everybody goes home at 4 o'clock. My dad's there at 11 o'clock at night still. His first day at work.
Wow.
And this guy in a suit comes up and says, "Who are you?" My dad goes, "I'm Paul. Today's my first day. What are you doing?" He says, "It was so messed up. I'm changing the system. So tomorrow everybody's going to move smooth." So that was the guy, the owner's son, that my dad worked for 20 years. So he helped him for the next half hour. They went home the next day. Everything went smooth. That was his first day at work. So my dad was always a problem solver, even at 16 years old.
A systems guy.
Systems guy.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and so he learned how to make shoes and all the things about shoes and where not to cheat, where to make something better and stuff. So when Vans got started, he had 20 years of knowledge.
Of market research, so to
Yep.
speak, behind
Yep.
the scenes. Yeah, yeah, knew the business. And then, so fast forward to today, how many stores, locations, and what's the ballpark of the current Vans revenue? Just to give the audience context, where it was to where it is
We're
today.
a $3 to $4 billion company. We're 500 retail stores in the U.S., probably 60 in Canada, 60 or 70 in Mexico, 250 over in Europe, maybe 600 in China. And then, you know, we have a distributor that we're just been working with for 30 years and stuff. They have 1,000 stores that are more of a wholesale. And now we're taking over that where it's not a distributor anymore in Japan and stuff.
Yeah.
So we're, you know, Australia, we have distributors in other countries.
Yeah.
Most of it is, you know, owned by Vans, which is, we're a partner, a piece of VF Corporation, who owns many different companies like the North Face and Timberland and Supreme and Dickies and, you know, backpack companies and stuff. There's 12 companies.
And there's about 500 locations here in the U.S.?
Yep.
Wow. Now, when you think about what allowed the Vans company to scale the way it did, what do you think was key to its success? Because I know at a certain point originally it wasn't around skate, surf, and you know that kind of a thing, but you guys sort of pioneered the hybrid of the lifestyle brand with the shoes. You know, not at the beginning, but at a time where not a lot of people were doing it. So can you talk about like what were some of the keys to scale originally?
66 to 74, we were just trying to make shoes and sell them to parents for kids.
And revenue was good those first years, or where was the revenue?
It was always tough. Again, when you go to 1988, when my dad sold the company, we were about a $55 million company. But in the 60s, going into the mid-70s, skaters started to wear our shoes. 74, 75.
Yeah, Dogtown and Z-Boys,
Yep.
right?
So it was Tony Alva and, you know, Jay Adams and all of the, you know, Dogtown skaters and stuff. And Tony found out that, you know, if he came in with navy blue Authentics, he found out if he used his left foot, his push-off, he wore that one out way faster. So he could just come in and buy one shoe. So if the shoes was $7, he could get for $3.50. Eventually we started giving him. So he'd come in, just, I don't care what color, just give me a left foot, you know, size. At that time he'd think it was a 10, he's an 11.
Yeah.
It's a size 11 now and stuff. So he took a red one. So when we made the very first skate shoe, it was navy blue, red, navy blue, because that's where Tony was wearing two different colored shoes.
Tony Alva.
Yep.
That's amazing.
And
legendary skateboarder.
yeah. And so that was kind of the beginning of the 70s. So what I learned is I just got out of high school and I was working with my Uncle Jim in our retail stores in 76. I got married. And for the next 10 years, it was something that they gave us purpose. Who are we? Okay, the first 7, 8 years, it's just we were a shoe company. Then all of a sudden these skaters and then BMXers and surfers were wearing our shoes. 82, Fast Times at Ridgemont High came out, where Sean Penn went into our Santa Monica store and got a pair of checkerboard. Where'd checkerboard come from? So in 81, 80, kids were drawing lines on the rubber and then coloring in checkerboard. So I see that. I make checkerboard rubber. Okay? Now they're coming up to the canvas and they're checkerboard net, so make checkerboard canvas.
So
we
you're
could
getting
adapt really
inspiration
quick.
from all of your customers, yeah.
Again, we made our shoes in the U.S. from 1966 to 1994. So we could make something, change something in days.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so we had a lot of people trying to copy us, and you're trying to protect your, you know, the checkerboard. We're trying to protect the off the wall. We're trying to protect the Vans name. We're trying to protect, you know, the side stripe and stuff. So what happens is people trying to copy you and stuff, and we're trying to fight off those type of things, which were hard when you don't have a lot of money in the early days. So when checkerboard came out, like 3 or 4 months later, you'd see checkerboard in other companies,
Stores,
Tom McCann, Kenny, different things and stuff.
Yeah.
So we'd have blue and white come out, and then they'd have blue and white. And so in the meantime, we were trying to fight them in the courts and stuff.
Right.
We had a store. Our very first mall store was 1980 in Covina, the Covina Mall.
Yeah.
They call it the Fashion Plaza today.
Yeah.
So we were on the second level, our very first mall store, because all the others from 66 to 1980 were all freestanding buildings. So I made the ugliest green and white checkerboard, only made like 30 pair and put them in that store. 3 months later, they had container loads coming in of the ugliest shoe. So they stopped that. And we won the right to have checkerboard.
Yeah.
We won the right with the waffle sole. Just, in court, showing, why we have that and how we have that.
Waffle grip bottom soles, yep.
Hey guys, we'll get right back to this video in a sec, but first, I have a quick question for you. Given that the e-commerce industry is growing by the trillions year over year, have you ever dreamed of running your own e-commerce business like many of the guests we've interviewed on the show? But maybe you felt overwhelmed about where to begin? Lucky for you, today's sponsor, Zendrop, solves this exact problem. You see, with Zendrop, you simply select high-quality products, add them to your store, and they handle shipping and fulfillment while you make the profit. No more guessing games on product sourcing or dealing with inventory hassles. Zendrop's platform is designed with you in mind, making it incredibly simple to launch and scale your dropshipping business in a one-stop shop. Plus, they're offering an exclusive deal. Sign up today through our link below, and their team will personally craft your very own store to kickstart your e-commerce journey. They even have weekly coaching calls to answer all of your questions and help you get up and running in no time. It's truly more than just a platform. It's your e-commerce partner waiting to join you on the path to success. So why wait? It only takes 5 minutes or less to sign up. Simply hit pause, head over to zendrop.com/passion, and let's turn your passion for e-commerce into a thriving online business today. Thank you to Zendrop for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the show.
But the 80s were a great time because Sean Penn liked that checkerboard. The studios from Universal called up and said, hey, our actor has some of these shoes on from Vans. Can you bring it? So Betty Mitchell, our PR lady, brought up a couple dozen. And then it just happened from there. Those type of things, you just love that it just happens that way. I got to meet Sean Penn about 2 years ago in Hawaii it was during COVID. And we were at the Turtle Bay Resort, and I guess he lives up there. And at the golf course is the only restaurant. And he happened to be inside. We were outside. Everybody had pick up your food and go.
Right.
But the owner there lets me sit outside with my friends. And one friend came back from the restaurant and said, hey, Sean Penn's inside. You're kidding me. I got to go say hi to him.
Yeah.
So I walked in, and I guess his daughter was there. And I said, hey, I don't mean to bother you, but I met you when he narrated Dogtown and the Z-Boys for Stacy Peralta.
That's right.
And Tony Alva. And I just thanked him for that. I said, your dad is my hero because he's Spicoli.
Yeah.
You might not want that, but you are famous, and you made my life so much better.
Right.
And he was really a nice person. He was very nice and stuff. I went outside, and then I know the owner of the restaurant, so I gave him my card and said, hey, I would like to buy their dinners tonight, which he did. So I'm walking on the outside when I'm leaving an hour later and stuff, and he came outside. He says, Steve, you know, I said, I wanted to. John, I says, thank you so much. And he was just a really, really nice person. It's a great way to, tie back some history and stuff from our company.
That's amazing. And one thing you guys were able to do, I know even recently with the Phillies player in baseball.
Yes.
You guys made like these custom cleats and gifted it to him.
Yeah, so Michael Lorenzen, and I just got to meet him just this last week. I went down to San Diego to see the Padres play the Phillies. So he was with the Angels. Before that, he was with Cincinnati. And he's a big Vans fan. He went to it's called Fullerton High School. And then he went to Cal State Fullerton, played baseball. And he was with Cincinnati, went to the Angels for a year, and he takes our Ultra-Rain shoe, which is a newer type of cold cure type of shoe, and our surf team designed it because of going down rocks and everything else and stuff. So it's a lightweight but very comfortable shoe. So he sends it to this company in New York, and then they cut out the bottom and put in the cleats. And so he gets traded to the Phillies. He was in the All-Star game this year because he's been pitching really well with Detroit.
Right.
And so he gets traded to Philadelphia. His first home game for Philadelphia, he throws a no-hitter.
Yes.
So the Hall of Fame calls up and says, a pair of Vans shoes, pitched a no-hitter, they want that shoe. So he sent it away. I made 3 more pair. I sent out to the guy to put cleats on. I got them back.
Yeah.
I sent one to him right away, and we thanked him. And he had pitched 124 pitches to do that.
Wow.
So we call it No-No 124. So I made a box up with our product people. In 10 days, I got 200 boxes in that say No-No 124, Michael Lorenzen, no-hitter.
Wow.
And so I got 124 pair of the white shoes,
Yeah.
and I have 3 pair coming with the cleats on them. So I sent one to him. I have one I'm going to meet him this last week, and I took another one, and I don't know how Angie, my assistant, did it, but she got them to a bronze company, and they bronzed them for me. They're out of Escondido.
Yeah.
And so I went to the game. I have one on a plaque, and the other one, it's all bronze, and gave it to him at the game, and gave him the one other pair of white cleats and stuff.
Incredible.
Got to meet him, and so it was just, he's a skater from Southern California, and I guess, you know, he doesn't need to, you know, get bought up by, you know,
Yeah.
the big companies out there. So it's an honor, you know, Michael, and wears the shoes and wears them proudly, and
That's
you know,
cool.
pitched no hitter in them. So.
That's amazing. Now, what does it feel like for you, looking back on the history of Vans and seeing how a part of culture, not just like Hollywood, sport, film, action sport, what does it feel like for you when you have seen the birth of it, you know,
Right.
day one till today? What does that feel like
It's
for
like
you?
my dad would tell somebody the last 8 years he was living out here in California. He did it for 25 years, but Stevie's been doing it for, you know, 57 years.
Yeah.
You know, and you've seen ups and downs. You know, we've seen the business grow and slow down and pick back up. And, you know, the last 20 years has been the real growth spurt. When VF bought us, it was 2004. So we've been with them almost 20 years. We were about a $300 million company, and we weren't making much money. And so they got us, helped us grow our retail stores. You know, they took care of the back end a lot and stuff. And everything was going great, and we grew rapidly for 18 years. Went into the COVID, which was a terrible time for me.
Yeah.
You know, somebody's on the road all the time, and
course.
get to, you know, do events and
Yeah,
have
you travel
skateboarding here and
nonstop.
surfing here and
Yeah.
snowboarding there, and you're kind of held down not being able to do something. So our mojo was, you know, slowed down a bunch, and we're trying to recover and grow back from that. So it's a challenge because, you know, you've got young people today with their phones.
Yes.
I did the Vans Warped Tour. Nobody realizes the Vans Warped Tour, Kevin Lyman came to us in 1996. He had just done 1995 the first year. No Doubt was on it, Sublime was on it. He didn't have any money to do the concert. I wanted to have skateboarding outside of Southern California, Texas, and Florida. I wanted to get to the other states. So we joined hands, and we were like 10% partners. And about 4 years later, the dot-com world came, and they promised Kevin and the partners all this money, and it never came through. So at that time, we bought 70% of the
Yes.
tour. And so from the 4th year on, you know, it was the Vans Warped Tour
Warped Tour,
from
yeah.
the 2nd year on, but we were the main owners, but we let Kevin, he's the person that did the great job, and got to go out and see all of these places with all these musicians and have skateboarding involved in the tour and stuff, and get to meet all of the great hardworking people. But the Vans Warped Tour was something that was our best marketing thing we ever did. And we did that for 24 years. I lived on a bus every summer for 24 years. And, you know, seeing, you know, from the great punk rock bands like Pennywise and Rancid and NoFX and Bad Religions to
Blink-182.
of course, Blink-182. And, you know, going into My Chemical Romance of these days, and so many great bands. But, you know, we had nostalgia bands and stuff that were out there and stuff from Ice-T, you know, Eminem. I mean, all these different people came. Katy Perry, they broke on the Vans Warped Tour.
Wow.
You know, and there's so many others and stuff. Avril Lavigne, you know, so many other great artists that were out there. And you see how hard that artists have to work on the ground every day, grinding it out. And the tour was 2 months long. You know, it was 40, 45 stops here. In the early days, we went to Europe for 13, went to Australia for 6, so it was 70 stops. And that was the way Vans got known.
Through
Not just in
collaborations.
skateboard and surfing and stuff, but also with music. And then art. A lot of our athletes in all the sports were artists or musicians. You know, Cab's in a band called Urethane, Tony's in a band, you know, Christian loves art.
And Pop Sasoy too. Yes.
Pops Soy, exactly,
yeah.
and stuff like that. Just saw all them out in Los Angeles. But art's a big part. We do a thing called Custom Culture where we send out 3,000 high schools shoes, 4 shoes, and let them do an art project on the shoes. And then we end up picking one winner, gets 75,000. And the other top 4 and stuff, we have something like 10 or 15,000. We worked with Journeys for years to do Custom Culture. And it's a great art program because arts are cut out of the schools now. So
Yeah.
for them to get some money back, and that's just something that, we were able to do for many years.
Would you say a big part of Van's growth for entrepreneurs listening who have their own startup companies, whether in the apparel or footwear game, a big part of it is collaboration with relevant players in the space? Like, was that a big key to your guys' scale initially that others weren't doing?
Not those first years, but later years, yes.
Yes,
Because
yeah.
nobody knows who you are.
Yeah.
You have to sell yourself to whoever it is that you're trying. You're a great, let's say you're a great person that does fashion. You gotta, first of all, you can't do it yourself. So you might have to find some people you can trust.
Teamwork. Yeah.
Teamwork, and work together.
not how,
Because we're working half our lives. You might as well be around some people that you like and trust.
A
And that's,
players.
that's normally, get around smart people. I like that too, but a lot of times I like being around loyal people. I like to be around people I can trust, and people that are going to be side by side. If I'm in a war, I want to be, with you. When I go to the Vans Warped Tour every year, got to have a good crew around you because you're going to be living together. You're going to be out there and hot. It's raining. It's windy, tornadoes, everything else. Somebody you can count on and stuff. And you can't do it all yourself. You have to be able to lean on people when you need to. Get other people involved, and you got to get some enthusiasm going. You've got to do some grassroots. You just don't go to the top. Yeah, and a lot of times people say you have to fail, and if I look at our 57 years, we have ups, we have downs. It's getting past those downs and going back up again. Loyal people in the music industry, there's a lot of loyalty there for bands that they love, and there's a lot of community. Community, we go to a thing called Born Free. It's a motorcycle event. There's 10,000 people that go out to the hills of Orange each year. 10,000 on Saturday, 10,000 on Sunday. And they love motorcycles. They come cruising up and they're wearing skate highs, they're wearing old schools.
Yeah.
There's a community. You go to get, you go to a Pennywise concert and stuff. There's a community there that, believes in your brand and because you supported them.
Love that.
We worked together for many years on different people that donate, and so we try to help Music Cares. Music Cares tries to help with blood donations, and they raise money for musicians that either have alcohol problems or they have drug problems or they can't afford health care. So we always had them as one of our sponsors, working along with Monster. And we had this water. So Monster, you think of energy drink, but they had water, and it was called Tour Water. And so only the bands and sponsors and stuff, there was 1,000 people. They supplied the water for at least 16 years on the Vans Warped Tour. So they just recently came out and said, we'd like to use the Vans Warped Tour Arrow logo. And so Kevin and myself with Vans said, okay. And so it's not a big royalty, but let's say we get a penny a can, they're going to make 12 million cans. So we're going to raise $120,000. We're donating it all to Music Cares.
Yeah.
So it's just giving back. When you find partners that you can work with like them, it's something that, you trust, and it's not easy. You gotta be able to get down in the dirt and painting that first building, finding a place that, my dad says to an accountant after his third store, I need to get a warehouse because in the factory we had everything. The office, the factory, stitching room, warehouse. There was no more room. He says, Paul, you can't afford a warehouse. So my dad found on 5th and Ross in Santa Ana, he found this old building, it's about 8,000 square feet, and he put a store in the front. So the store in the front paid for the building. So there's different ways to think about
to
it.
be like creative solutions.
Yes.
Yeah. So he had to get really creative because traditionally someone would see a shop, be like, I can't afford it. But in the great words of Rich Dad Poor Dad, he says, well, how can I afford it, right? How can you creatively find a solution? I feel like that's such a big part of business.
It goes back to the very beginning. When he's building the factory, he wanted to get a box. The company he worked for was only 6 miles away. And that owner said to all the suppliers of fabric and boxes and everything else, don't sell the Van Doren or I won't buy from you. That was nice, huh?
Yeah.
So there was only one box company in the western 13 states that made the boxes, with the lids that go on like this. So my dad found a corrugated company, and I think my dad was the very first box that was one piece. You'd fold it, and it was one piece. There was no lid, no rubber band around it, no lid. And had to find a solution. That was the solution there. So there's always ways, not to cut corners, but ways to think about it. In today's world with the internet and everything else that goes on that's high tech, there's still ways to find, a way to get
Creative
a store to pay for
solutions.
creative solutions.
Yeah, I love that.
Hey guys, quick question. Have you been enjoying this video, but you're thinking to yourself, man, I love this content, but I want to learn how to grow my brand or my business? Well, if your answer is yes, you're not alone. In fact, millions of entrepreneurs deal with this exact same issue. And it's something that I've learned the answer to from interviewing 7, 8, and 9-figure entrepreneurs around the world. And this philosophy that solves all that is a concept called who, not how. Now, the who, not how philosophy states that anytime you're stuck on the hows to get to the next level in your life, your brand, or your business, that there's always a who to help you get there. And it's for this exact reason that I'm super excited to announce that I've officially launched our brand new Passionate Few community to help you do exactly that. And yes, it's 100% free. Join me and the thousands of other entrepreneurs that can help you make your life, your business, and your dreams a reality. With no further ado, let's get back to the video.
When we interviewed John Paul DeJoria, creator of Patron Tequila and Paul Mitchell Shampoo and Conditioner, he was actually telling us early on he bootstrapped it. So they would actually use like the white plastic bottles because they were the cheapest bottles they could get.
Yep.
And they would slap on like the black stickers. Till today they do that, right?
Yep.
To be resourceful with cost, to keep their costs low,
Sure.
but also keep it be a quality product and appeal to the visual. And today they still do that. I know Chipotle does that with their wood and sort of aluminum look in their stores.
So we came up with, kids always love stickers. Okay, so we were in Chapter 11 from 1984 to 1987.
Chapter 11 bankruptcy?
Yes,
Wow. So,
1984 to 1987.
wow.
So what happened was Vans was going great. We were growing fast.
What was revenue like those first few years, give or take?
Fast, again, we're still under $60 million. When we were growing from 30 to 50 or 60 really quick after Fast Times.
At Ridgemont High, the movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
So people then, that's when wholesale started to open up. People wanted to have your shoes. And so what happened was my uncle had taken over. My dad was trying to take a back seat, was still working, but my Uncle Jim, and he wanted to make athletic shoes. So we made athletic shoes in 81, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And so basketball, racquetball, baseball, football, skydiving, breakdance, all kinds of cleats and shoes, and not just in one width, but many widths in America. Everything else was being made overseas, so it was costing a fortune. And unfortunately, the bank came in and said, hey, you have $11 million, we want our money. So they forced you into Chapter 11.
Oh man, how stressful was your dad at that time?
Yeah, really stressful, but
The
again,
company had been around almost 20 years,
Yes.
doing millions in revenvenue, and now here they are facing
Yes.
potential bankruptcy.
yes.
Yeah.
And so in my office, I still have my desk and my cadenza from my dad's office that has a number on it, because the bank comes in and numbers everything because they want to liquidate everything. The courts say, okay, so my dad, they had to come in and observe what was going on, and unfortunately they looked at everything and they asked my dad to come back and be in charge and stuff. And so it was a family breakup thing too. It was very sad, but that's what happened in like 84. And so my dad told everybody at the office, at the factory and everything, hey, we're going to get out of this. I can't give anybody a raise for the next 3 years, but you'll have a job. And if you have pencils at home, bring them, because I can't buy any pens. So my dad, being creative, there was a computer guy, and so he was let go because he had bad numbers.
Yeah.
They had all these Avery labels and stuff. So there was a sheet and had 6 labels on it. So my dad had my cousin Klaus go and print stickers on them. And so in the stores, again, we had our 50 or 60 stores. You just tell the customer, come in, buy the shoes. Ask the child, would you like the box or would you like the stickers? They want the stickers, so we got the box, 16 cents. So we flattened it out, sent it back to the factory. They could reuse it again. So things like
Creative
that.
solutions,
Yes, it was
win-win.
creative. Guys, 16 cents. When you're selling the 100,000 pair of shoes and stuff like that,
It
that
adds
makes
up
a
at
big
scale.
difference and stuff like that. So those are creative ways that, even during, COVID, creative ways. We have all of these core skate shops that can't open up. They're going to go out of business. How can we help them? So as a group at Vans, we came up with this idea to be able to use the internet. Call this skate, we've got 40 skate shops around the country, the first 40 stores. We said, we have a way that you give us your logo, we'll do some art on our shoe, show it to you, have an agreement, you can sell 500 pair of them. Okay, they're selling them for $100, you get $50. Okay, and so if they sold 500 pair, they get $25,000. So we did that, and the shoes were put up online, and they were delivered in 3 weeks. And so they weren't even in their stores yet. And the funny thing about about COVID is that skate shops, bikes, surfers, because everybody was at home, were doing good. The skate shops were doing good after like 6 months, but those from 0 to 6 months, it was really tough how they're going to make their payment and stuff. So we were able to help out some of those shops, as well as some restaurants, as well as some unique, companies. People from the Marine Center in Laguna didn't have anybody there but one person, but they have all these dolphins, sick dolphins, and everything else. So he called me up and he says, "Hey, any way I can get involved in this, program?" I said, "Sure, send me a logo." I called up Wyland, the famous artist and stuff. He gave me art for some turtles, and I put it on the shoe. They sold their 500 pair in 4 days.
Wow.
And so that organization was able to get some money quick to help them for helping the mammals down there. So there's lots of creative ways. We call it Foot the Bill. That was the name of the program.
I love that. And it's funny because it's been such a part of Van's ethos since the beginning to give back to the community, be a part of the community, skate, surf, even down to growing up, I'd always go to the Huntington Beach, the U.S. Open of Surf.
Yep.
And you guys were, for many years, I'd always see you down there with your Hawaiian shirt and your slip-ons. And you guys have been such a part of the culture as opposed to a brand that just kind of puts stuff out. You guys are in it. I'm curious, switching gears to a few things. Number one, where did the Vans name come from? And where did the Off the Wall slogan come from?
Vans is easy. My last name's Van Doren.
Yep.
So it was Van Doren Rubber Company. So the first box was House of Vans. The second box was just Van. Then the next Van boxes for a long time were Van Doren. Just said Van Doren. And then in 1976, I know the date, it was March 18th, because I got married on March 6th. I had to go, I was on my honeymoon, had to come back to go launch Off the Wall. And so the box that was the first Off the Wall was March 18th, 1976. So Off the Wall came from cousin, Mark Van Doren, was 13. And he was into the punk rock scene at that time, just as a young person, and he was doing stencil spraying. Well, he had made what we call today the turtle, the Off the Wall kind of outline. It sprayed on the bottom of his skateboard deck. And my Uncle Jim said, "What's that?" He said, "I just made this up and sprayed it here and stuff." We were working with Tony Alva, and he was the one that was just coming off the wall in the pools. Okay?
Yeah.
And he was kind of a crazy, wild individual.
Right.
So Off the Wall spirit. So the words Off the Wall were then put into that logo that Mark had spray painted. And that's where Off the Wall came from.
Wow.
And so as years went on, us sponsoring and helping out any way we could, the passion, the purpose for Vans was in core sports, action sports. So the surfers, the skaters, the snowboarders, the BMX riders and stuff were all individual, wasn't team. They were individuals, so the individual spirit was Off the Wall.
Wow. And to date, how many pairs of shoes have you guys sold, and what's at its peak? How many shoes were you guys selling a year at Vans?
It was getting, right as COVID came up, it was getting near 100 million pairs that year.
Wow, 100 million pairs sold?
Yeah,
That year?
that year.
Just that year alone?
Yeah.
Not even collectively, just that year?
Went down a little bit since then.
Yeah.
But it was getting, because I was supposed to
Wow.
go over. I have an inflatable about as big as this room.
Yeah.
That's a big blue striped box with a checkerboard shoe on it.
Yeah.
In a factory out in Vietnam. I was going to go out, and I was trying to think of how to come up with, the Willy Wonka thing. Like, how
Yeah.
can I mark a shoe, and somebody can win
The golden slip-ons
whatever,
or something.
$1 million
Yeah.
bucks. I don't know what it was, but
Yeah, yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And then that kind of ruined it from 2000 to right now and stuff. I still got to get back there
2020,
and do
yeah.
some fun things and stuff like that. That was just, it was moving that way, and then things slowed down and stuff like that. But
Wow.
there's, I'm sure it's, 70 or 80, million pairs and stuff like
Wow.
that each year.
But in total, from the beginning to today, if you add up all.
Yeah, I know. I never did that one. All I
Wow.
know is
But
that
it'd be over 1 billion pairs. Ish.
it's a long time for 57 years. It could be, yeah.
Yeah.
But I know one thing is that
great.
our factory in Orange
Yeah.
was making 100,000 pairs a week.
Yeah.
When we were making in America and stuff like
Wow.
that there. They then put a factory down in Vista for about 3 years, but that never worked out. And then the company moved all production, 94, 95, overseas and stuff, which was a sad day. Me and my sister were sitting outside of the factory because we had done a time capsule at our plant out in front in the Vans thing in the front there. We had dug it up and
Yeah.
put in a time capsule, so we figured we'd break it up and take it since we're moving from there.
Yeah.
But it's amazing because anywhere I go in the world, I'm always watching feet.
Yeah.
I told my, I didn't tell my
crazy.
dad, but I said,
It's so sick.
yeah, so I'm glad, again, maybe he was in the bra company or something, but I always look at feet, okay?
Yeah,
So, because
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
shoe business I'm in and stuff like that.
Does it trip you out when you go out into the world and you look around and everyone has them? I know even how we met originally. Funny story for those that don't know. This is a great story. So I had been trying to get a hold of Steve for a long time, but I know you're a busy man traveling here and there nonstop, right? You don't get old because you stop having, or you don't stop having fun because you get old. You get old because you stop having fun.
Yeah.
And so Steve is traveling nonstop. Lo and behold, I'm sitting at the was in Laguna at the Montage Hotel.
Yeah.
We're at the Montage Hotel in Laguna Beach, and this gentleman comes up. He's with his wife. He goes, "Hey, excuse me, if you don't mind, can you take a photo of us?" And I'm like,
It's my 46th anniversary.
"Yeah, it's your 46th
Sorry,
anniversary.
47th anniversary.
47th year anniversary. Yeah, your wife will kill you if you get that one wrong."
Yep. Anniversary. And so we were just down there for a couple of days. One of those staycations, just come down,
Yeah.
don't have to travel far.
Yeah.
And so I just saw him. I said, hey, he's wearing Vans too. Cool. Would you mind taking a picture of us?
Yeah. So I'm wearing my slip-ons that day, and he goes, "Can you take a photo?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And then I'm like, "Wait, you're Steve Van Dorn from Vans." And he
My
goes,
wife goes, oh no, God.
"Here we go
He
again."
takes the trash out on Tuesdays. Just leave. Don't get his head big or anything in this here.
Yes, absolutely. And fast forward, we make this happen.
Yeah.
But it's so cool to see what you do, and I'm curious for you personally. A lot of people at your age, you obviously don't, need to do this from a financial perspective, but you still, love to be a part of the band. It's obviously such a part of the ethos. What keeps you at your age moving and grooving and inspired, passionate? I always see a smile on your face at all these events. Like,
it's the people that we work with. You want them to have a future and them have a career, and they're doing it in the company that your father started, and it's all the skaters. Tony Alva was just with me in London, 2 weeks ago. He just turned 66.
Yeah.
His birthday was last week, and he still skates. Surfs 4 or 5 days a week, and he skates. But he
So
just,
sick.
Steve Caballero was just all over Europe playing with his band as well as he skates. And Krishna Soy was just with me 2 days ago out in Los Angeles with Robert Vargas, and Jeff Rowley just texted me last night that he just signed his new contract and stuff. He's been with us like 24 years and an awesome
Yeah.
individual and stuff. It's those people that keep me going. I stay close to being a teenager by hanging out with
I love that.
them. And
Yes.
who inspires them? Anywhere I go with any of our guys, could be Ray Barbie just FaceTimed me from Tokyo 2 days ago
Yeah.
with Mitch, who's out there as our director over in Tokyo and stuff for Japan. And Ray's over there playing, so he wanted to say FaceTime. How you doing, Steve?
Yeah.
So it was like at 10 at night, and I was just sitting in my house watching some TV, and all of a sudden FaceTime come up. I don't know who it is. Hey, it's Ray, and it's Matt, But
Yeah.
it's from Lizzie Amato being able to do the loop and stuff, and seeing the Olympics for skateboarding, which a lot of people not sure they like or don't like. I like it because it puts more skate parks everywhere in the world for young people to go. There's an organization that I help. I make shoes and just give it to them because they go to third world countries and DIY building little skate parks and little things for kids to do something where they give them some exercise, but they get out and get a little passion for it. But to see it in the Olympics was amazing. And I was always a proponent for the park. Probably 10 years ago, we built the first one at the U.S. Open. And at the Vans U.S. Open, Marseille, France, there was a famous place there that had a park, and all of the skaters, Omar, Tony Trujillo, Cardiel, always went over there, and they always did really good because it's transition. It's not just street.
Street, yeah.
And so I liked that because I always enjoyed vert. I always watched vert and stuff like that there. Any one of the sports, it could be for bikes or for skating and stuff. And so we built the same Marseille park. We got the plans, Joe from California Skate Parks.
I love Joe.
Built
Yeah.
it. Joe Saligny built it right on the beach. We had 5 artists come in and paint, graffiti it all up. It was great.
Amazing.
So that was the first year. Next year we improved on the look, and from there we built 5 around the world. Sao Paulo, out in Sweden, went in Montreal, over, so there's 5 locations, Salt Lake City, and left them for those people to be able to skate.
Yeah.
And then when the Olympics were coming around, they said not just street, they're going to do park too. So I was very excited about that. And then to see the first year the silver and gold medalists in girls, silver and gold medalists in guys had Vans shoes on.
That's right. Yeah.
And so again, Pedro, I just had lunch with him.
Pedro Barros. Yeah.
You know, about 3 weeks ago and stuff. And you know, they're all be getting, you know, tuned up and ready to go again for the Olympics. There's a lot of great American skaters. We're very proud of what they'll be sending, you know, next year and stuff. Zion was one of our Wright was one of our riders and stuff from the past Olympics and stuff. But people like Lizzie, she's actually, you know, riding for another country, which because she's from there, has relatives there and stuff, but that opens another spot up for another American to get in. So I think it's awesome and stuff. But to see the pride, but if you watch the Olympics, somebody does good, you don't see the other athletes come over to them. In skateboarding, somebody does a great trick, you see them all banging their boards, going up. It's because it's community, it's skateboarding.
Yeah, and as a skateboarder myself, I can attest to that. I grew up playing a bunch of different sports and soccer and everything, and it's tough and it's brutal and people are talking smack and all this. And in skateboard, and it's funny because if you're not a skateboarder on the outside, like people would think like, oh, those skateboarders are just troublemakers, all this. You get to know them, they're brothers, you know, they're because they know what it's like to battle for a trick for hours, be bloody, cheer your guy on. And so it's such a culture, like you said, community of unity.
Yeah.
You know?
So my dad wrote a book and it came out about 2 years ago and stuff. He finished it. And 2 weeks later, he passed away. Just missed his 91st birthday. But I think he knew he had everything in his life done, and he was never really sick. And it was a good time. So Vans went and made a movie, and we're hoping to get it streamed. I'm hoping this fall or stuff, called Never Catch Pigeons. But it's a movie, tells about all the stories. But when the movie starts off, we had a great director. His name's Doug Prey, and he had done some really great documentaries. And he did ours, and we're so proud of it and stuff. It was actually at the Newport Film Festival, right at the end, 2 years ago, right at the end of COVID. So it was the first time people could go into the theater without a mask on. And outside, there was 500 allowed to go in there. Outside, there was 800 people. We had a full vert ramp.
Wow.
We had a stage, so we had music playing. We had skating from our skaters, plus like Tony Hawk, a lot of Bucky and a lot of the different riders and stuff. So we had 9 restaurants. We had a big party and stuff that night.
So
but
cool.
The movie itself starts off with Kyle Walker trying to do a trick.
Pro skater.
Misses 4 different times, 5 different times. And then he finally makes it, and then you see all the friends of his, fellow skaters and stuff, you know, and stuff. My dad was just talking about people persevering in business. Same thing. You might not make it the first time. You got to keep trying. Keep trying. That's the one thing that skaters and surfers and BMXers, they persevere. They just keep going until they know they can get it done.
And I know also your pop, you brought this, your pops has these 12 lessons that he's learned for his words of wisdom. Do you mind sharing what they are?
Yeah, no. So, you know, again, you know, trusting in, whoa, that was
All
good.
good.
You know, again, this is a nice skate deck that Paul Smith made up for me for some of our things here and stuff. But, you know, lesson 8, trust people. Again, learn that from the very first day. You know, going down to be a positive thinker, you know. Mind the store. Again, you know, things went wrong maybe in '84 and stuff like that there. Mind the store, get back on back. But integrity is not in here, but I learned as a, you know, growing up, integrity is so important. My dad had great integrity. He owed $11 million to one bank and $2 million to another, his partners in Vans. And the banks wanted to sell him off. And the court said, no, he can hesitate. So he had a 3-year plan. He says, here's a 3-year plan, I'm going to pay it back. And they says, okay, why don't you just pay it back 25 cents on the dollar? So they're willing to take $3 million. My dad says, I owe 12, 13 million. I'm going to pay it back 100 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
Okay? My dad did. Why do I have a job today? Why does Vans around the world today? Because my dad, integrity in 1984 to 1987 with Gordon Lee and Serge, what they did is you have to have integrity. You got to do what you say, and when you do that, here we are 30 some years later, that we have a company that's $3 or $4 billion company, and we're here because of his integrity of sticking to his guns and doing what he said.
Man of his word.
Yep. You know, some of the things here was show up, you know, or the very first one and stuff, you shouldn't be so sure of yourself, you might be wrong. And there's a story in there about that there, and then know yourself. And admit when you're wrong. So there's a lot of lessons that are life lessons, but business lessons. And that's just super, super proud of what Doug Prey made this great movie, and we just got to get people to see it so you can kind of see an American dream story and stuff.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
And going into the future, what's the vision for Vans? You know, we know the last, 50 years plus, 60 plus years?
57, yeah.
57 years. What's the plan for the next 57 years of Vans?
Right. The plan is that, again, teenagers is our main thrust. What they're into, trying to be into what they're into. At the same time, stick to who you are and don't get too far out of the realm and stuff. We know that.
Keep the main thing the main thing.
Yep,
Yeah.
keep the main thing the main thing. And, again, care about people, make shoes that are comfortable, make shoes that they might want, be creative, let them tell you, how they might want to have shoes in the future and stuff. But it's mainly, care about the people that work for us, because we've got, tens of thousands around the world, and trying to, tell them about who my dad was and who the people that grew this company and the people that are running the company today. But you have to be true to yourself, and you have to be real. You have to be authentic.
I love it.
And,
like the Vans Authentics.
Yep, you got to be authentic, and you got to be true, and you got to if your values are the same, which again, making a good quality shoe at a good price, of value and superior customer service. That's all the way through, from servicing your own customers as following through on your promises and stuff. And from we have a brand new marketing CMO that just joined us, Triki, 2 months ago, and getting a great strategic plan. Our president, Kevin Bailey, had the executives together for 4 days about 2 weeks ago, and then getting a little bit bigger group and getting your strategy, where we're going, what we're doing and stuff. But the world is a much smaller place today, and we really care about diversity. We really care about sustainability. A lot of our products we're working with small farms for the rubber, where we're investing back into there. Same thing with the cotton, where we buy our cotton from, and making sure that it's sustainable, and that we don't. VF is a really great company for making sure the factories don't have any child labor and things like this here. A lot of the factories are in Cambodia, Vietnam and stuff these days, and shoes you make down in Brazil because of tariffs that they have, or Argentina and stuff. But it's a big concern for young people today. I just did a project, met some really cool people from down in Mexico that are trying to save sharks. 100,000 sharks an hour
No way.
are killed.
An
100
hour?
million, yes.
That's
I'm sorry,
insane.
11,000. 11,000 sharks an hour
Wow.
are killed. 100 million a year. And so I met Alex, I met Antonio from Cancun, and both of them have an organization saving sharks. So he, on his own, spends about $2 million a year paying 55 families on this little island off of Cancun to not kill the sharks. So how much are we making before he pays them? So I made 2 shoes up. I just put them online a week ago. Just figured I'd make 800 pair, and I've got some, and I put them in Thalia Street, put them in Jack's Surf Shop, four core surf shops, 4 Van stores, and online, just to test out. So next year in July, when it's Shark Week, I'm going to be ready for them, but just testing out a little bit.
Yeah.
So the first 6 days, they sold 39%
Wow.
of the shoes online and stuff. It was 300 and some pair and stuff. But money we're donating back to the organization.
Yeah.
We just said we're going to make a $20,000 donation, and for this year, and it's a great thing. So he wants to eventually move that all around the world so that they can. Sharks help the reefs, keep them fluent
Yeah.
and growing and things like that there, as well as people love to go and swim with the sharks. Well, if you kill them all the time, there's not going to be any sharks left and stuff in the
right.
world to take care of cleaning the oceans and everything else and stuff. So it's a fun little program, just kind of got behind because it's something that's good to give back and help the oceans and stuff. And
Absolutely.
I know through Wyland, or with his ocean things, I made him up 100 pairs for him to put online, and I just told him I'm not charging because he's going to sell them and help the people in Maui. He lost his whole store over there, but he wants to help out all the people in Maui and stuff.
Yeah, and
like
I know you
that.
guys are going back to Maui as well, right? You have
Yep.
an event coming up.
On Monday, I fly out Monday, and where Again, not advertising anything, we don't do that. Whenever something happened in Katrina or Sandy in Houston or the fires up that wiped out Paradise up near Chico, I just grab trucks full of shoes, drive up, shirts, and give them out. And that's what we're doing. We just shipped over 9 pallets of things, and I'm flying over Monday with Pete, Luis, and Rip, and we're going to land, get our stuff. Great company, Aloha Freight, shipping over to me for free, because their business and their passion is Hawaii, and so they said, hey Steve, we'll ship it over to you for free, and we're going to hand out shoes, shirts, towels, and sandals next Wednesday.
God bless you, man. That is awesome.
So
that is beautiful. And then 2 questions here before we wrap up, and I appreciate you sharing all this, is, you know, what were the top, looking back, I know you were sort of there at the ground level building bands with your pops and seeing him making all these moves. Like, you must have seen his like low lows, right? Like, you saw the high highs, but you also saw the low lows. You know, any key decisions or things you look back on as maybe the top 1 or 2 mistakes that you got, like biggest mistakes in the business, and then the maybe 1 or 2 biggest things you guys did right to turn it around off top for business owners watching
on
this?
the business thing, again, the problem was we got out of our niche doing athletic shoes in the 80s.
So you should have kept the main thing the main thing. Yeah.
Okay, it happened again in the late 90s.
You get tempted.
Not Chapter 11, but we had moved all manufacturing in 94, 95 offshore, and now you can get shoes that are cold cure. Everybody was going puffy, you know, puffy tongues, puffy shoes, and all these different things. And
Osiris.
Okay, exactly.
D3s,
And, you know, there was a lot of different great brands and stuff that were coming, puffy everything and stuff, and cup construction, like a basketball type
cup
of
soles,
shoe. Okay, so I was getting really upset because we were making 100,000 pair. Now they took it all away. We were down to having vulcanized shoes be 1 million pair, where it used to be 6 million, because everything else was all this new stuff in the late 90s. And so I really got upset in the meeting one time with all the vice presidents. I put about 100 shoes on the wall. And I just, because we went away from our side stripe, it was all different manufacturers. Says, tell me which one's a Vans over there. You can't. You can't tell us beat somebody else. You know, we were a classic company. So Jeff Rowley came in near 99, did his very first vulcanized shoe, got the last bet again, and we took a gentleman by the name of Steve Mills, who was working in some, he was working for us, but he was doing outdoor shoes. Brought him back into classics with Ryan Posabon, and we started going back to classics again. And that switched it around again. Got acquired by VF, and they're a company that helps their brands grow. And they helped us grow. You know, we were starting to get back on our feet, but we weren't making any money. And so a good thing, those were 2 lump things that were going on that were bad, and then VF really helped us get online, helped us grow by having us be able to do things more with the Vans Warped Tour, more with the Vans Triple Crown of Surfing, skateboard, snowboard, BMX, being able to do different, bigger events, but at the same time, get new styles. You know, we've always been vulcanized and stuff, but helped get our retail stores going from 200 to 300 to 400 to 500, get our name out there, getting great accounts. You know, if it could be like, you know, the Zoomies, the Journeys, the people like, you know, Foot Lockers today and stuff, get products so that they want to be able to carry your shoes and stuff.
So good strategic
wholesale,
partners.
right? Very strategic, and not downscale stuff. There's been a lot of, you know, companies that have really gotten hurt, you know, before, you know, COVID, and then during it and stuff in the core industry. But there's always the big guys that are out there. And my dad, when he was telling the guy with going into Chapter 11, deciding who's going to stay in the company and not, my dad, he says, who's the competition? My dad says, I don't have competition.
I love that. That's
He
so
says,
badass.
I don't care about what those guys or these guys do. I do what I do. I make shoes. You can come into our stores and make custom-made shoes. You can go online, make custom-made shoes. You have a brand that you believe in because they support things that you like in the skate industry or in the surf industry, and doing amateur sports for skate, surf, to put in skate parks. At one time we put 9 skate parks in. And you know, today we have the Block in Orange, which for 24 years they've wanted to get us out of there. So eventually we're going to move our location. The park was not going to be there, but we have Huntington Beach we built. So there's a lot of really good things in the future that we look forward to doing.
I love that.
And it's just staying in the lane, staying true to who you are, and being a classic, company that's authentic.
That's beautiful, man. And then, what are the best selling Vans shoes to date?
It's funny because it was always the authentic, back in the 80s and 90s and stuff. But Old School took over, and Old School was is the number one. Our side stripe, a low top, black and white, but everybody custom makes them, in the different colors. It's kind of cool. I've been to a baseball game and a football game the last, couple of days and stuff, and look how people go online to get those team colors.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
And most people have no idea it's part of you or your family at all, right? So you walk around not knowing that like everyone's wearing your shoes.
But they I don't know how it is, because I don't do Facebook, I don't do Twitter. I like Instagram. I just take pictures wherever I go. And so the Old School, we have 5. Everybody says 5. I say 6. We have the Old School. We have Skate High. We have the Era, which is the padded back, first off the wall, authentic, slip on, and then we have the half cab.
And each of those sell millions of pairs a year.
Yep, and the half cab. Because it's a shoe. We just celebrated 30th anniversary of half cab.
I love that.
Stuff like that. But over the years, there's different shoes that come in. Right now, if it's lowland, it happen to be upland. There's different shoes that has V's on them, and they're being very successful. But a shoe that we did probably 23 years ago is called the New School, and Mark from Blink 182 was in. I think it's called Josie. It was a video back in the day. He was wearing them then, and I just noticed recently that he was wearing the New School again.
Yeah.
And so that shoe in the last 6 months, it was just sent to Journey stores and our stores, and now it's gotten more distribution and stuff. Is very successful right now and stuff. So it's kind of cool to be able to see that. But we have a whole new line that's going to be coming out in spring, and it's changing the name. It's off the wall, okay? But there was a name that we've been using up to this point as they've been designing it. So it was Fashion Week in Paris about a month ago.
Yeah.
And Joe Salignia built, right on the Seine River, built an awesome plexiglass skate area.
Wow.
And we had a bunch of our riders, Rowan, go out, and Lizzie and Zion, and they all skated it during Fashion Week. And they had bands play there and skating. And so we kind of made a mark. Fashion Week might be inside, but it really was outside.
Yeah.
So
that's epic.
It's Pinnacle is the name. And so it's going to be launching in, so that was the first site of Pinnacle. And so it's going to be launching in the late spring.
I love that, man. Well, Steve, thank you so much for sharing all this. Final question I have for you is, for people around the world watching this, men or women who obviously love Vans, love the story of Vans, love what you guys have built and are building, and maybe they have dreams out there they're trying to pursue, but maybe they're stuck trying to figure it out. What's your best advice, having been around, a lot of people living their dream, whether it be some of your writers, whether it be you and your family, which you guys have built? I'm sure you've had at this stage, had the pleasure of rubbing elbows with people living their dreams at the highest levels. What are the common denominators, and what would be your, in a nutshell, best advice to people out there who have a dream and want to make it a reality, but don't know how or feel stuck?
In the early days, I didn't know it was, I was lucky because I've only worked for one company in my life.
Yeah.
So 57 years, of one company, and it's the passion that I try to pass on to others. But it's hard work. If me or my daughter are at an event and there's 1,000 people and there's crap everywhere, we're the first ones to go grab the trash can, bring it over, and start throwing things in, and you'll see everybody else trying to help. You got to have some pride in what you do. There's not a lot of executives that would go on the Vans Warped Tour for 24 years, or go to these events. My wife's always yelling at me because I'm barbecuing. I said, Sue. She said, why do you do that? I said, because if I sit in the stands, I talk to 2 people, left and right. If I cook for 1,000, I get to talk to 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
And all I'm doing is trying to plant Van seeds. Okay? So whatever your business that you're in, you believe in yourself is number one, okay? You're gonna have people that care about you and the product that you're trying to do. And my best advice is that, don't give up. If you fail the first time, dig back in again, but have some people around that you can trust. But it's really up to you and your passion. I've had nothing but one thing. You cut my veins, is Vans Blue. And I've got lots of people. We're a team. Our athletes, ambassadors, from Stacy Peralta of the early days to, artists that are around the world and stuff that like your brand. get somebody that you can kind of trust and try to network from there, getting their involvement and stuff. I watch the Shark Tank all the time and see, you know, as they're looking at trying to find out, are you true? Do you believe in what you're doing? And do you have the numbers? My dad always says in the movie, you can't sell lemonade for 5 cents if it's costing you 6 cents. You need to know your numbers. My dad was always a numbers person. Always knew where his inventory was, knew what he had to do. He didn't believe in advertising. He told the people that bought Vans from him, the first 13 years, the people that bought it, Vans is a fire hydrant. You just have to open the valve up. Because he didn't believe in advertising. He just did word of mouth. So he knew we were doing good in Southern California and it could morph around the world, and that's what it has done. Sometimes every brand's going to go through it. You go hiccups and stuff. It's just keeping the same thoughts, the same things and stuff. But you got to believe in yourself first of all. Then you got to get other people to believe in you. How you do that is hard work.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned finding the right people, the who, not how. Because so many entrepreneurs try to do it themselves. They get stuck and plateau, and they might not have the courage to make the phone call or find a strategic partner or find the warehouse that they can turn the front of to a store like your dad did to fund the you know, space. So I love that you mentioned that. Yeah.
And you know, again, finding somebody that believes in you, like my dad did with Surge, to finance you. And now you're doing it because you got to live up to them and live up to their expectations.
So from $65,000 to billions in revenue.
Yeah.
The epic van story. Thank you so much,
My
Steve,
pleasure.
for being on the show today.
Pleasure.
And guys, for you guys watching out there, make sure to check out the authentic book. Here tells the van story.
And you know, in case you don't like reading, but you like listening to books on Audible, Tony Alva narrated it. My dad asked Tony.
Oh, that's amazing.
He narrated the 9 hours of the book.
Legendary pro skater.
Yeah.
Awesome. So make sure to check that out. And also stay tuned because we have a feeling the streaming film is going to be coming out soon. What's it called one more time?
Right now, it's Never Catch Pigeons.
Never Catch Pigeons.
Yep.
And it shares the entire van story.
It Never Catch Pigeons. And the whole story behind that was my dad, remember I told you the first day, that he went to work. And so 3 years later, his boss asked him in Boston to go to the Boston Commons and help him set up. In those days, they would do, let's say they were selling shoes to all the wholesale customers. They'd have a room like this and they'd have shoes on, so that's what my dad's job was. So after that day, he went outside and all of the buyers went with the owner of the company outside. And this one buyer says to his boss, my dad's hero, catch me a pigeon. So he says, no. He said, we're gonna get some drinks, have some cigars, go eat here. No, I want you to catch me a pigeon. So my dad, at 18 years old, sees his hero, his boss, running around Boston Commons trying to catch a pigeon for this guy. Who's this drunk guy, but he found out later he bought half of the production of the factory.
Wow.
So it's like he wants the order so bad he had to go do it. So my dad swore that day he would never, if he ever had a company, never catch pigeons. So that's why Vans was developed, make their own shoes, sell them in their own stores, and put the money in the bank afterward.
I love that, man. That's so beautiful. And then selfishly, I have one more question because I love it that you, even at your age, are moving, grooving, traveling. I'm sure a lot of your friends at your age maybe don't travel as much as you.
No.
You've probably gotten to relive your childhood many times over, being in the youthful energy in the space you're in. How important is that, do you feel, to like your health, your good energy, your mood, stay moving and grooving?
Yeah, you know.
Because a lot of people get stale as they get older, right?
Yeah, I know, and that's why, you know, my sister,
You're over here
who's 2 years young,
barbecuing,
my sister's 4 years younger. She just retired about 3 months ago and stuff, and she deserves, you know, she did a great job. She was in charge of our HR for 25 years and stuff. But to me, seeing the world reflects who I am, and to thank people that are out there, I think there's nothing better than traveling, and I think it keeps me young. But what really keeps me young is traveling with our skate team, or the surf team, or being at an event and seeing what they're up to and stuff. If you hear the stories of Christian Soy or Tony Alva, what they went through, and now one's been sober and for 22 years and the other one's 17 years and stuff. And the ups and downs that they had and stuff.
And
But
now finding God and having that be a part of their life.
it's just remarkable. But that keeps you young, but you have to. It's a worldwide business, much smaller today, and you've got to be out there. The people like the Tony Hawk or Tony Alva or Krishna Soy, Caballero, those guys spent so many years signing autographs and seeing the world. Whenever I travel with our legends, there's hundreds We were just in London. They had 800 people the first night at this reunion thing, and then 450 to come to a seminar and listen to all of these different stories of skaters. It's, like I say, a community and stuff. But it's the work that they've done in the past. If you just sit at your desk and you never get out there and see the world. Our CMO was just talking just before I came here about Fridays we don't have anybody at the office. And we're not doing any Zooms on Friday anymore. Get out, get amongst your customers, see who those teenagers are, see who your customers are, who's selling your shoes, who's buying your shoes, who's not buying your shoes, who's not, why, reasons why. But get out amongst them on Fridays and stuff. So I thought it was good advice.
I love that. Steve, thank you so
All
much.
right.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks.
Guys, thanks for tuning in to this episode. As always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow Vans, get yourself a pair of Vans if you don't already. And as always, make sure to chase those dreams and live off the wall. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.